Welcome everybody to the third episode in the Nevada Trappers Association's quarterly podcast. We've left the spring fur sale season. We're starting to get into summer, preparing for the next season. There's actually quite a bit going on across the state right now in a lot of different areas, and we're going to touch on those as we talk about this. But with me today, of course, as usual, we got Neil Cheeney, the Nevada Trapper Association president, wearing the new swag. For anybody who's looking for merch, he'll be out at the Westerns. And then, of course, the legendary Joel Blakeslee. Joel, how you doing?
Good.
Excellent. All right. So, in the interest of time, we'll just jump right into this because, two old guys and the young guy, we could talk all day. The first thing I really want... Sorry about that. The first thing I really wanted to touch on real quick was the fur sale. Neil, can you kind of talk about that a little bit, about some of the prices, maybe what some of the buyers were saying, what some of the folks were saying?
Yeah, it goes without saying, the Fallon fur sale went great again this year. The Currens, the family, Jim's family that puts it on, they do a fantastic job here every year from the buyers. How it's their favorite one to come to. Everything's ran tight. Everything, they never have any problems. There's always high quality animals. The Nevada Trappers as a whole take a lot of pride in their fur handling, and the buyers really look forward to coming here for that all as well. We had a pretty successful sale. I know a lot of the trappers were happy. There was some more animals this year than we've had last. We were able to get some more predators off the landscape this last winter. It was a little bit more mild winter, and saved a lot of wildlife in the process. I wrote down in my notes a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. I know a lot of people are interested in our prices, and most everyone has either texted me or called or looked it up themselves, but we were able to average $546.97 on bobcats, and coyotes. Our average was $11.98. So, not a lot of motivation to get the coyotes on the money side. If you like big game hunting, go trap the coyotes. It's still a lot of fun. It's not all about the money anyways. We're out there to enjoy our heritage and save some fawns and help the ecosystem.
Yeah, I have to admit, for me, the coyotes are what really get me going now. Don't get me wrong, walking up to a set with a big old cat in it, staring at me is one of the most extraordinary feelings I've ever felt in my life, and I hope to feel it every single time. It doesn't get any less than the previous times. But there's something about coyotes, and God, I wish the price. Hopefully, at some point, the price comes back up just to make it worth it, because it's difficult to justify at $11. That really doesn't even cover the time you spend skinning the damn thing, much less anything else. So it would be nice to see that come up, but not bad cat prices though.
Yep, great cat prices this year. Hopefully they hold. I anticipate next year we'll have another decent year, depending on weather. We'll have a lot of trappers out and save some more wildlife.
What do you think, Joel? Do you think the days of good fur prices do you think they're gone? I mean, I know they go in cycles, and I know that the '80s were wonderful, and before that wasn't so great, but it at least for me, I feel like society has turned a corner, and if you're going to trap from this point forward, it's going to be because you enjoy to trap, and it's not going to be much more than that. That I can't base that off of anything other than when I look out there and I see how people's attitude towards hunting or anything like that. So I'm just curious, what do you think, Joel?
Well, I think our cat prices are pretty good.
No, cats are, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate in Nevada. We actually have a commodity that's worth trapping. You can actually make money doing it. I mean, you take somebody from back in the Midwest, I mean, they don't have anything that's worth anything, you know. But, you know, a guy gets out and hustles, and if he just took off and went trapping, he could make pretty good wages for 4 months. You know, I mean,
focusing on cats. Do you think the dog prices will ever change, or do you think this is where we are?
It'll take the times that I've seen good coyote prices in my life. Back in the 70s, it was a government stimulated market because the Army and the military bought a bunch of coyotes to make the fur ruffs for their Army parkas and whatnot. So they created a market for coyotes. And then the one, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, however long it is now, that was a result of one manufacturer, basically, the Canada Goose. And they were making ruffs for fur parkas as well. So in my lifetime, the demand for coyotes has been for, you know, hoods, for coats. You know, I mean, a coyote coat makes women look big, and it's heavy and it's warm. I mean, it's great if you live in Alaska or Minneapolis or something, but it's too much for a climate like where we live.
Yeah.
So that's what's driven the coyote market in the years that I've been trapping.
It's interesting how one little aspect of the economic landscape, like Canada Goose, can completely change. It has such a huge downstream effect. Fascinating. There's another podcast out there called Meat Eaters, and he's done a couple episodes on trapping in general, and then he's had a fur buyer on there from back east, which I thought was pretty interesting, because he explained a lot of pre and then in COVID and then post COVID type of stuff. But okay, well, fair enough. Anything else out of the first sale you wanted to touch on, Neil?
Just wanted to thank everyone for coming, supporting the association. Right now, that's the you know, what keeps us going. We have a good time there, hang out with a bunch of friends. A lot of us are from far corners of the state. Sometimes it's the only times we get to visit with each other. So it's just a good time visiting with friends, and thank everyone for coming down.
You know, we're getting quite a bit of competition from other states.
Really?
But I think our average is the highest one in the West. You know, I mean, there's a little bit of a deal there is when you get out of state cats. You know, some of these other states, they split their Western cats up from their ones that get mailed in and create an average that sounds better. And our average includes the cats that come from other places. So, I mean, we had a 545 average. Nevada cats probably averaged, 675 or 575 to 6 is my guess.
I'm on that note, actually, and maybe you know, maybe you don't, but you've been around for a while, so you probably do. I was looking at the Oregon fur prices, and they had Eastern Bobcat and Western Bobcat. And at first I was like, what? But then I thought, wait a minute, that's probably a distinction between what's caught in the Cascades West versus what's caught in the high desert of Eastern Oregon.
Exactly.
Is that true, or is there some other distinction I'm not aware of?
Yeah. Totally different animal. You got a $100 cat over on the west side of Oregon, and
that's what I figured it was.
$1,500 cat on the east side. So,
okay, I thought I was on the right track, but now I can sell any of my own ideas as my own really good ideas if I try hard. So,
like comparing our cats to California cats, they're fine on this side of the divide, but once you get over on the other side of the Sierras, they're 8 or 9 pounds, little black bellied, cats.
Oh, wow.
Like a whole different species almost.
Okay. So bouncing off what Neil was talking about opportunity to get together. I'm going to skip to our third topic that we had on the agenda. We'll swing back to the second one. Normally every year we would do a Preppers Rendezvous sometime in July or August. But this year we're not going to. We're going to instead what we're going to do, Neil, is
this year we're hosting the Western Convention for the National Trappers Association. We talked about it a little bit, whether we still hold our own rendezvous or not. With the youth event that we're going to be doing in July, we decided that putting our effort into the Western and doing a good job on the Western was more to us than trying to host another event during the summer. So, instead of just our state rendezvous, we're just going to throw it in and count the Western as part of that. I think it's going to be a good time. I've been working a lot with Brian Nelson with the NTA and planning it. Everything's coming together good so far.
do you have locations, dates, and times to share?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's going to be at the Horse Palace in Spring Creek, Nevada, just outside of Elko. And it'll be June 6th and 7th. I think on the 6th it starts at 9 or 10 a.m. That's a Friday. And it'll go until 4, 5-ish. That Friday night we'll have a dinner. The association's going to provide food and have a dinner and an auction with a bunch of donated items. And then Saturday, start off the morning, I believe at 9 o'clock with some demos and go until 3 or 4 Saturday. We have a great demo list. I'm trying to look it up on Google at the same time so I can read you the demo list. But Joel's going to be on there. We have Joel, Billy Elchek, Billy Walker, all of them, all 3 of those guys, Nevada legends. They got a lot of knowledge, hundreds of years of sorry, I'm looking at the website of experience. We've got a pile of good guys here. I got it up now. So our demo schedule, Friday, we have Jed Ryback, another Nevada trapper, Bobcats. Jed's an amazing trapper. I look forward to seeing him in Fallon every year. I try to text him, get numbers from him.
You know what's interesting, just real quick about Jed, is Jed is just like this young guy. If I saw him at the gas station, I wouldn't think twice about him. If he just doesn't look like your typical trapper.
Yeah, and he knows what he's doing.
Damn good.
He's very good at Bobcats. He's going to be a great one to be there for. We have Rusty Kramer, the Idaho Trappers Association president, soon to be National Trappers Association president.
Really?
He'll get handed the reins, I think, in July, I believe. I'm not positive. Somewhere around midsummer. He's going to give us a wolf trapping demo. Billy Taylor will give us a coyote trapping demo. I will be doing a bobcat fur handling.
Have you got a bobcat?
I got a tan one I can bring. So, but Jeremy Watson from Oregon, the vice president of the Oregon Trappers, he's going to give us an otter demo. He, from talking to him, it sounded like it's going to be going over how to catch them kind of quickly, and then talk about the fur handling on it, the different ways to handle it, and the ways that he thinks that they turn out better in the end. And we have George Forbush. He's the president of the Nevada Predator Callers Association. He's going to give us a night hunting demo. And then Andy Weezer give us a coyote trapping demo that day too. Saturday, we're starting it off with Steve Bowman. He's one of our directors for the Nevada Trappers Association down here in Lincoln County where I live. He's going to give us a fox trapping demo. Doug Landsberg from Wyoming for Martin. Valerie Neese from Arizona, cage trapping bobcats. Tracy Truman from Nevada, Southern Nevada, another legend. He's going to give us bobcats. Scott Ramsey from Idaho, another wolf trapping demo. Brent Bonecutter from Southern Utah, ringtails. And then Trapping Legends Roundtable with Joel, Bill, and Billy Walker. Joel, Bill, and Bill.
So it's interesting. If most folks listening to this will probably understand already, but it's worth noting that on that demo schedule, you talked. There were more than a couple bobcat demos. There were more than a couple cat demos. Same thing. There are more than a couple coyote demos. And if anybody who's watching this who may not be familiar with the culture, I think it's worth pointing out that those aren't repetitious. There's nothing repetitive. You can walk from a coyote demo with Joel to a coyote demo with Neil to a coyote demo with whoever from a different county, and you're going to see three different distinct ways. There's going to be a lot of similarities, but you're going to learn something from each one of those demos. And what's fascinating to me is when I'm at these rendezvous and I'm watching, because I like to watch people. Rarely do I ever get somebody walk up and go, "Oh, that's another coyote demo. Never mind, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go drink a beer or something else." It doesn't matter if they've even seen the demo last year. Like, it's Joel again doing another demo. I still want to watch it because it's going to reinforce whatever it is I heard last time, and there's a good chance he's going to bring something up new this year. So that's just an interesting aspect. I've never seen anybody at a rendezvous turn down an opportunity to learn from anybody else. Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter of the presenter or the person watching. Everybody is sincerely interested to learn from somebody else. So I think that's pretty cool and worth noting. You had mentioned dinner on Friday the 6th being provided by the association. So is that provided by the association, or is there an expectation of a potluck type event? Or
I believe we're going to do something where we ask for a donation for a plate, and try to at least cover the cost of the food. And then everyone, just hang out in the room, sit down, eat your food, visit with some friends, new friends, old friends, and then we'll get up and do our auction of the donated items as a fundraiser for the National Trappers and the Nevada Trappers. So, and there also is a gate fee to get in. I believe it's see what it says. Oh, a 2-day pass is $10 for an adult, and 12 and under are free.
And that's across the board, regardless of whether you're a member of a state trapping organization or not, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And the purpose of that is to cover the cost of the venue, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I also want to mention while I'm on here, I'm gonna give our vendors a little love. We do have some sponsors. I apologize, I don't have a list of the sponsors right now. I know Brian has posted them on a couple of pages on Facebook to give them some credit, but vendors that are planning on being there is the National Trappers Association, the National Trappers Foundation, the Nevada Trappers Association, the Idaho Trappers Association, the LKL Trapping Experience, Max Traps and Trapping Supplies, Montgomery Fur Company, Duke Traps, Western Cats, Moyle Mink and Tannery, Wyoming Trappers Association, Blackbone Trap Line, Western Lures, Texas Trappers and Fur Hunters Association, and the Oregon Trappers Association. So it's a great place to go to pick up on your lure and buy some traps, get whatever supplies you might need for the next coming year, and not have to pay shipping charges as well.
Is that vendor list finalized, or is there still room if somebody wants to do something?
No, if somebody wants to come in, I'm sure you just got to contact Brian. If you look it up on the National Trappers Association website, it'll have it's really easy to find. It says conventions. You click on it, it'll say Western Convention, and it brings up the page and gives you all the info you need. And then you can contact Brian and get signed up if you'd like to be a vendor.
Okay. And then I guess the question I would have for both of you actually, since Joel, I'm sure you spend a lot of time around that area. What's the accommodations like? Because I know typically if we do a rendezvous, it's camper or tent, but I'm assuming with Spring Creek and Elko so close that opens up a lot of opportunities. Is there any opportunities at the event itself, or is all camping or sleeping someplace off-site?
At the event, it's at the Horse Palace. It's a big indoor arena. And the outside there's a big area. There's dry camping allowed on the property. There is I believe there's a fee for camping, for dry camping. There's also, beyond the vendors, I forgot to mention, there'll be tailgaters that can pull up and they'll be selling their stuff as like a swap meet style type thing at part of it as well. But anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. You can camp on the property, dry camping only. You can pull a trailer or a tent. There's just not any hookups or power or water for you. We also have a room block at the Maverick Hotel and Casino. If you called, you just tell them you're with the National Trappers Association. And beyond the Maverick, we also have one at the Ramada at the Stockman's Casino in Elko. Same
Gotcha.
thing. And just let them know you're with the National Trappers Association.
Excellent. What about obviously the adults will be busy and entertained. What does it look like for the kids, for those who have children?
I'm still kind of working on something for that. I think we're gonna have a few things there for kids to do, and for them to spend some time, give away a few things to them, and let them have some fun. But I'm unclear on what that looks like right now. We're trying to iron out a few major things before we start on that.
No worries. Anything we want to touch on with the Western before we move on? Joel, any thoughts?
I was going to ask Neil, is Moyle Mink going to actually come down?
I haven't talked to him personally. That's what they have on the website when I looked at that page. They will have a booth there.
I got a bunch of furs that need tanned. If they're going to come down, I'd like to be able to drop them off.
I'm sure they'll be there for that reason.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, oh, he's back. Look at that. Guy's quick. Couldn't even talk about him. He was coming back so fast. Good Lord. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the recent Trappers Readiness Conference. As far as I'll let somebody else explain the details. First, I could not attend. I should say, for anyone listening, I've been an active member of the Nevada Trappers Association longer than I've been aware of these readiness conferences, and I understand the importance of a state organization when it comes to trapping. I understand what the state organization does. The folks that are part of it, like Joel and Neil, who spend an inordinate and a tremendous amount of time in an effort to influence policy within the state of Nevada and at the national level, and in some cases, in some aspects. I understood that all when it came to the Nevada Trapper Association and any state trapping organization. But the Readiness Conference was a pivotal moment in the way I view the world. Since I was allowed to go to the Readiness Conference, I think it was last year in Reno.
Yeah.
It really profoundly opened up my aperture to not only what happens at a national level and the topics and the issues that the National Trappers Association gets into in an effort to preserve our way of life for us across the board. But I was also astounded at the way in which the state of Nevada, we wouldn't have wildlife if it wasn't for the individuals that make up the sportsmen's organizations, to include the Trappers Organization, to include the George Forbushes of the Predator Callers Association, to include any number of people I'm forgetting right here. And for me, having the opportunity to go to that readiness conference really shifted me from sitting on my butt and enjoying my free hunting license every year, to actually getting up and trying to help and participate. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the readiness conference, you're upside down, Neil, is is near and dear to my heart, even though I wasn't able to make it this year, but I am fascinated to hear about what was talked about. So Joel, I'll let you run with that first, I think.
Sorry, I'm really struggling here.
Oh, the telephone, huh? Well, the readiness conference, like I've said, politics is my interest in this, because if we can't do it, why do all the rest of the stuff? So I think that the political aspect of this is the most important thing. Well, it is to me anyway. So I think the Readiness Summit's possibly the most important thing the National Trappers Association can do. And I think for the state organizations, the same thing. And it's basically just, you have demos at a regular rendezvous to learn how to set traps, but the Readiness Summit is basically a series of speakers that teach you how to save your trapping. And we did these back in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. We called them leadership summits back then. And they were almost always in Vegas, but we'd have all the state presidents come and, directors from different states and we'd share experiences and what we did to further our state's business and whatnot. So anyway, that's what this is. We had people that took on different topics and told different stories. And probably the really cool part of the one this year was when we basically had a roundtable discussion to help Oregon out, because right now they had a hearing yesterday on a bill to outlaw trapping beaver in Oregon on public lands. That's huge. And Jeremy was down there and he was distraught. So John Daniel, to his credit, he says, you know what, let's just stop the readiness conference and have everybody weigh in on Oregon's problems and see if we can come up with some solutions and some ideas for Jeremy and Stan and the fellows up in Oregon. So we just did a think tank and fleshed it out for probably an hour and a half. And then we met later that evening with the National Trappers Association lawyer and ran some of the ideas that some of us came up with. And then I talked to Jeremy this morning, and he just tried to call me again just as we were starting this podcast. But he was as upbeat as I've seen him in a long time. He had a hearing yesterday, and I guess their Fish and Game came in and gave some good presentations. And several other people and organizations came in. And Jeremy told me, he says, I went and bought a suit and a tie. He said, I got me a frilly shirt and a tie, and he was pretty proud of himself for that. And I said, well, good for you. That's it. That's really
I can't imagine Jeremy in a suit and tie.
Yeah, well, he got one. So good for him.
I need a picture of this.
Yeah. So I'll call him up when we're done with this and whatnot. They got another meeting tomorrow. So, they've got 5 members on, I think it's a Senate bill, and he says he thinks 2 of them are on his side, and obviously he has to have 3. But if he can swing one of them, then they're done. If not, they'll have to run it into the next house and beat it up. But he said that he was really pleased with the way the hearing went yesterday. So that was a positive thing that came out of that readiness summit. You know, he had some ideas, but on the other hand, he had support. It's nice to know that the rest of us are rooting for him, and he's not a man out there standing on the flank of a pirate ship by himself, getting ready to be tossed into the ocean. So
yeah, I have to think that Jeremy fought the best battle he can, and I would like to think that that's enough. And not to express skepticism, by the time this thing gets out there, that we'll know what the answer is. But Oregon is just so ideologically captured by stupidity that I don't know. I don't know if I'd make a bet either way.
Well, we're gonna, like I say, we're gonna find out. Tomorrow's gonna tell part of the tale, and I mean, if they lose tomorrow, it's not necessarily over. There's still another bite at the apple, but it sounds like it's come 100% their direction since the readiness summit in Arizona.
That's good.
So I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe they'll be able to defeat this.
Any other significant conversations out of the readiness conference that you want to talk about?
Well, there was a lot of good speakers. I mean, the main leaders in the West, showed up, and it was like last year. I mean, we had good speakers, and I mean, Mike Reese was there, and Justin Webb, and Rusty, and John, and there was a fellow from Arizona that got up and talked about their coalition, the equivalent of our coalition.
But Jim Bull?
No, he was Jim was there, but the other guy was kind of the leader of the coalition, kind of the Larry Johnson of Arizona.
Okay, gotcha.
But they, Jenny brought up her wild horse thing, and everybody supported her in writing on the resolution on the wild horse thing we're working on. So it was a really good meeting. What did you think, Neil? I mean, I'm sure you could add
I
on.
think it was I think it was great. I've been to all 3 of them since they started them back up, and all 3 of them I've walked away with a lot of good stuff. I know the first one in Boise that Rusty hosted. I learned a lot of good stuff, but I was a little confused about a few things, and then spending more time doing this because I was brand new when the one in Boise happened, and spending more time doing this and going through a few things that we have ourselves in our association, like this the petition that we had against us in January, and working with you and Mike Reese, it's helped me understand that part of it a lot. And I think by far my favorite thing was what we did with Oregon. And then I'll echo what you said. I talked to Jeremy on the phone last night for, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes when I was driving to my daughter's Little League game, going down the highway, and just hearing the tone of his voice and how excited and upbeat he was gosh, a whole 180 from how it was when we first was talking about it at the Readiness Summit. And it was awesome to be a part of that and to be able to help. And I mean, I know all of us, we've been sharing it, trying to get word out. I've submitted the testimony online. I'm sure you guys have, and it's been awesome. I think beyond the Oregon thing, my next best thing for myself was was Rusty's talk. Rusty's very, very good at driving membership and getting his membership involved in things and that kind of stuff. And that's something that interests me here in Nevada. I'd like to step it up and kind of take some of their ideas and follow their lead and try to get more active with stuff, and I think we're on the right track. But I walked away with a lot of good ideas from him and Justin Webb as well on the banquet stuff. So all of it was amazing. I know Joel and Mike's lobbying talks stimulated a ton of conversation throughout all the leaders that were there, and I think they're always a favorite. And if you haven't made it, if you're leadership from an association out here in the West and you haven't made it to a readiness summit, you are doing your
Listen
state
up.
a disservice. If you can make it happen, because it is something that is very, very beneficial to us.
That's very
Do
true.
you know where we're
Go ahead,
doing it? Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard.
I had something I wanted to say, comment on that, but I'm glad, regardless of how Oregon turns out, I got to give kudos to Jeremy for doing what he did, because every once in a while, things something like this, just for a moment, consider how monumental of a change in culture and as far as I'm considered, rights that is to strip away the ability to trap bobcat on public land in the state of Oregon, and to be the president during that time frame, and regardless whether it's a valid thing to say or not, to be known as the guy who either saved it or the guy who lost it, and that's who doesn't have a lot to do with anything other than stupid fucking people in populated cities. That's a lot of weight. So I can imagine how to get in there and get a lot of great advice from a lot of folks, and to be able to implement that in a discussion, to influence that and walk away feeling like you did the very best you could. I can just imagine how he felt after that, because that would be awesome. Regardless of how it turns out, we all know Jeremy did the very best he could.
Yep.
Without a
And
doubt.
Stan Steele too. I've talked to Stan at length, and
Mm-hmm.
he was pretty distraught for a while, but he picked himself up and he's back in the game and giving it hell. So
It's overwhelming. I mean, it's again, it takes it's amazing sometimes when these things pop up, the circumstances in which we find the people in the positions they are, because my initial gut reaction to that is, it's fucking Oregon. Oregon's doing dumb shit again. There's not much we can do except just hold it off.
Northern California.
Oregon and California, right? But then you get a guy like Jeremy who's like, oh, hell no. I'm going to do the very best I can to stop this. And I would like to think I would too. But my absolute initial reaction is, fucking Oregon. They're doing Oregon stuff again. I'm just being honest.
I'm proud of Jeremy, though. I'm proud of him and Stan both.
Yep,
They could easily threw their hands up and said, "Oh well," and they didn't.
Nope.
And,
no, that's
and
awesome.
I've got a fairly positive gut feeling about this based on what I've heard. I mean, I'm not going to make a prediction, but if I had to bet money right now, I bet they win. Wouldn't bet a lot, but I would bet that way.
Well, I am curious, and I suspect I know the answer. The people supporting the petition probably provided a lot of emotional testimony about the importance of the beaver as a keystone mammal within the ecosystem and all the things that brings, and how the wanton barbarism of trapping and all that kind of good stuff. and I'm hopeful, and I know that our side would have presented facts and information. Do you guys know if the Oregon Department of Wildlife, how they represented it, or did they have or do they in Oregon have that opportunity to present?
Well, I had heard that they were told to sit on their hands by their governor, but it sounds like they showed up and did a really good job.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, that's awesome. That really is.
Yeah, and I mean, Oregon's the beaver state. I mean,
Beaver. It'd be like I don't know, not trapping beaver in Oregon. Be like not trapping coyotes in Nevada. I don't know. I just don't understand.
we're the silver state. They're the beaver state. California's the golden state. Each state has something they call themselves, but Oregon's the beaver state. That cultural thing plays, and I know that got brought up there. I always bring up Carson City in our legislature because I just say, hey, you guys know our state's named after a trapper? And he goes, oh, wow. So that's part of our heritage,
That is one of my particular favorite points to make. And sometimes people look at me odd, but I don't know how many generations of somebody doing something does it take until it's recognized as a cultural activity. If I said that Paiute Indian tribes around here no longer get to charge money to fish from the Lahontan Lake, their traditional fishing grounds, they don't get to charge anybody else, people would lose their mind. Why? Because that's culturally, that's their land and their wildlife and their ability to do it. But for some reason, when it comes to us as trappers, even though you can go back into the 1600s in the United States with the long hunters crossing Appalachia into Kentucky and Tennessee, and then the New West in Missouri, and then the new West west of the Mississippi. There's generations of trappers. So at what point does that legitimately get recognized as a part of our culture? I don't know the answer to that, but
I've made sure that it got recognized in Carson City. I've said it a million times. I always say, look right out the window there. There's a statue of a trapper right out there between here and the governor's mansion, in the Capitol building. I said
we need to somehow incorporate that in because we got the bobcat for the thing. I wonder if there's somehow we can incorporate the trapper statue in the back behind the bobcat or something. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I've never seen the freaking statue. I'm going to Carson City to look now.
Oh, I go out there when I'm trying to figure things out and sit there and talk to old Kit, ask his opinion.
There you go.
What do you think I ought to say, Kit? Give me a little
Speaking
bit
of a capitalist. Kit Carson was definitely one.
Yeah, but no, I go out, sit there, and just ponder by that statue. It's kind of an odd thing to say, but I do it.
All right. Well, so okay. So we hit the first sale, we hit the readiness conference, we hit the westerns. Are there any big topics between now? Let's say that we'll do the next quarterly. Let's say August. So anything in the next 3 months that people should be paying a particular attention to, whether it be trapping specific, coyote calling specific, wild horses. What are the big things out there that people should really be thinking about right now?
Thermals, dogs, and horses.
All right, let's take dogs first.
Well, there's a group of guys in eastern Nevada that want to have a houndsman certificate.
Yep.
They're concerned about the non-residents that come and hunt the lands, and I'm kind of ambivalent about it. Those guys are my friends. I like them. I don't like mountain lions. They do. it's getting to the place where all they hunt is big toms and they don't take the females, and I, I really don't like them saying that the mountain lion populations are being impacted, because I don't really believe they are. But it's their business. I I support them because I would want them to support me, but I don't really think the Trappers Association needs to get involved with it. It does affect us a little bit because it's with bobcats, but they've got as much right to the bobcats as we do. So those are just my thoughts on it. They asked me if
I tend to find myself ambivalent. Good.
You guys there? Both of your faces.
You're breaking up really bad, Joel.
Oh, it's probably my internet.
I just generally look like this.
It does that sometimes. Well, if I'm breaking up, you guys talk, because it might last for a little while.
Okay. So, well, and Joel, you had said you were kind of ambivalent, and in many ways I am as well. Quite honestly, I've never hunted with dogs. It's not something I've never done. I see both sides, though. On one side, I think you find a group of people who, and I agree with this in many ways, would say that there's far too many cougars on the landscape, and right now we don't even come close to meeting the quota set by INDA every year of cougar takes. So for me if I want to increase the deer population and I want to increase the antelope population and so forth, I want to take as many cougars as I can off. But I also completely understand, and this is from a guy from Fernley, so I'm curious Neil's perspective because he's on the east side. But I also completely understand, I guess there's an argument of that these out-of-state lion hunters are not unlike shed hunters. When they come in, they just terrorize the shit out of the landscape with no real care or thought to the folks that live here. So I get that too. Neil, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I've only ever hunted, gone on a lion hunt one time. I somewhat understand the amount of work it is for these guys, the amount of, at least on the hunt, not even, keeping their dogs in shape and all the work it takes during the year to keep their dogs running. And but for me, I feel almost the same as Joel. I don't like lions. I talked to one of the petitioners. I'm friends with him as well, and told him, was like, hey, when I first read this, I don't like it one bit, but I want to hear it from you, your reasons, because I would want you to hear me out if you didn't understand something I was trying to do. And he explained it to me, and I still told him, and he totally understand. He said, look, if you're not a lion hunter, if you only want to hunt big game, I can understand why you would hate lions and want more lions gone to help get the pressure off the animals. But for us, we love the lions. We love hunting them. We love this and that. And I said, I totally understand that. I said, I still don't like lions, but I live here on the east side of the state. I see the same pressure, primarily from Utah. The horn hunters come over, they just pillage everything, and then leave, go home. There's tire tracks. I'm not saying that some Nevada people don't do it, but I'm sure some Nevada guys do. But where I live, the very extreme vast majority is Utah plates. You see out here driving off every single road. There's tracks and motorcycle tracks and four-wheeler tracks down every single patch of trees that you walk through. It's just I sympathize with them on that. We're just getting hammered from all edges, and I that's what I told them, was like, hey, I'll support you in that, behind that, fact as well, because it is a crisis over here, and people on the central, and I even, I'm saying this without having any real proof, but I don't think that even the west side gets as much out of state pressure as we do here. It's I don't know how I could explain it where people would believe me, because it is insane the amount of pressure we get.
And I completely get that. I think one of the, if I recall correctly, one of my recommendations as part of the cab for Lyon County, I think I made this recommendation. I hope I did, because if I didn't, it was dumb. I should have. It's because it's a great idea. It's my idea. Is why not make it a unit by unit requirement?
Mm-hmm.
So all those units that border Utah would require a out of state permit to do it, and the units out here that aren't feeling the pressure don't. Now that could serve two purposes. That could one, mitigate the number of folks coming in from the east, or maybe if they're willing to pay the cost, or two, that could potentially also push them deeper into Nevada and just spread that problem out further. So I don't know.
At the commission meeting, I was there at the last one on Friday, and there was a few things during public comment, a few ideas that came out that I really liked. I don't know if their petition was the answer. I appreciate how they pulled it, and I really appreciate the commission taking it up and putting it in the TAC committee, so that this issue can be addressed. It won't be addressed under their petition, which I think is good for both ways. And the couple ideas that I really liked was having three, an eastern, a mid, and a western kind of areas in the state for lion hunting, and either issue permits like they were talking about for everyone would have to have a permit. If it would have to go through legislature if they tried to just issue it to non-residents. But if they've made everyone have a permit, they could allocate where what regions those permits were allowed to hunt out of, and they could spread the pressure out so it's not hammering the one
And
edge of the state really hard. And
and
go ahead.
also utilize that as a tool to target specific areas that have specific
Yes,
mountain problems.
exactly. In the areas where they're paying private contractors to come in and remove problem lions, they can focus the tags to those areas. That was my favorite idea out of the thing. Personally, it's got a process to go through, and I'm excited. I think there's enough competent people making the decisions and helping with this issue that it can be solved in a way that doesn't really you know stir up the entire state. If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense. Yeah, I'm so to kind of go off on a different trail for a moment to come back to the point is I'm big into history and politics, and as part of that education process, I've really come to appreciate the original intent of the founding fathers to make, because when the United States was formed, and we fought our revolution of secession from Britain. Britain didn't make peace with the United States. Britain made peace with every state and the Confederacy known as the United States, the Confederation of States known as the United States, because each state was recognized as a state with a capital S, no different than Spain or France or England or whatever. And the framers were huge into the concept of decentralized authority and states' rights. but I've also, so to get to my point, because it always takes me a long time to get there, to get to my point, I've also felt like, especially in modern times, we need something like that in the western states for sure. Because if you look at Nevada, there is a profound difference between southern Nevada and northern Nevada. If you look at California, there is a profound difference between northern and southern California. Take Oregon, there's a profound difference between the east and the west. And why is it that folks in one half of the state get to dictate to the other half of the state what it is they get to do simply based upon population? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think there's opportunities to use the idea of decentralization even deeper into the states and allow the counties a lot more autonomy and sovereignty to decide how their counties will be run. Went down a rabbit hole to get to a point. But so because of that, I love the idea of saying, hey, if you're on the east side, maybe you do need a permit. Maybe everybody needs a permit. I don't know, because it's popular and there's lots of lines. But if you're in Washoe County above Gerlach, maybe I don't know why you need a permit, because I'm up there a lot and I'm about the only person running around up there. I mean, there are people, and if the mountain lion was great hunting, I'm sure there'd be more. But you get my point. So Joel, we hit the mountain lion. We hit the hound petition. I think the second thing you wanted to talk about that you thought was important, and it is important, is there's a petition to allow, and hopefully I'm hitting the right topic. There's a petition to allow the use of thermals for night hunting in some counties in Nevada.
Well, it's actually, right? It's actually to stop the use of thermals during big game seasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm completely misinformed. Then I thought that this was hey, we don't want to do spotlighting, but we'll allow you to use thermals conversation.
That was in line.
Daryl, that's what happens when you take a Facebook hiatus.
Yeah, I know. I have no idea what's going on here. And the notes they give us at the cab suck, by the way. They give you like a little snippet and they go, what do you think? I don't know. I don't know what this says. Go ahead, Joel.
That happened in Lander County. That's what you're thinking about. They said no spotlights and just thermals. But the Wildlife Commission has come up with this. Well, actually, I guess it was the wardens. They've come up with this idea that they want to do something like the shed hunting or the drones the trail cameras where you can't do any of these things during the big game seasons. Well, my thoughts on that is why in the hell do the coyote hunters have to take it in the shorts because of big game hunters? You know, that's just wrong.
If a big game hunter uses a thermal to shoot something after dark, he's breaking a law. Doesn't matter if you use a thermal or open iron sights.
There's a law right now.
It's already illegal.
Yeah, it's like gun control laws. It's already illegal to murder people, you know? Yeah. And I guess there was a guide and some other guy down there in Spring Valley that watched a 400-point bull all night and then waited until the exact minute that shooting hours opened and shot the bull, and some other guy was wanting to get it and he didn't get it. And so that's just what I've heard. But you know, I have
a hard time finding anything wrong with that. So they stayed up all night and watched it and then waited till the legal hunting hours and then pulled the trigger.
Yeah. But somebody else didn't have a thermal or something. So, I mean, that's the rumor that's going around, and they're saying that you can see them during the daytime better, you know, when they're in the brush, you know, where you might not see them with binoculars, see them with thermal. And, you know, it's like, I don't see why the coyote hunters have to take it in shorts. You know, fix it on the big game side of the equation. You know, just say you can't have thermal scopes on during big game seasons. If you're hunting big game, if you want to do that.
If you're hunting big game, you shouldn't have a thermal.
That's easy. But don't take it away from the coyote and the bobcat guys. You know.
Yeah, I know. Their thing on that is going to say, well, people can just say that they're coyote hunting, but my opinion, they're going to have to do a little bit of police work and iron that stuff out. If someone's got a big game tag and
And
they're
they're
in the
in the
same
units.
unit and they're in the
And they're
same
carrying a
unit as that
308 with
tag
the
and they
thermal.
have a thermal with them, that
That, that would be an
to
easy.
me, it's
That'd be an easy way to
yeah,
solve it. Say if you got an out tag in 231, you can't have a thermal in 231 during the period of time you got that out tag open.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
yeah, yeah.
Instead of just outlawing it for everybody. So kind of pisses me off. I don't like when they just start making blanket things and the other thing is, what are we doing? Trying to protect coyotes, for God's sakes? I mean, we all agree we got a mule deer program. Why take away the tool that's come along that may move the needle on this?
Well, much like Neil and I were talking about, I forget if you were here or not, Joel, but we were talking about in the aspect of mountain lions issuing those not the tags, but the permits based upon the unit, and then focusing the permits on units that have problem mountain lions. I can see the same. I see the same opportunity for the state organization to work hand in hand with the citizen by them developing a relationship with the coyote calling association, saying, "Hey, we got a real freaking problem outside of Lovelock with coyotes. Can you guys hold a coyote calling contest here this spring or something, and use them as instead of paying some dude $100,000 to trap 6 coyotes? Why not why not focus the guys who want to go do it for free?"
Exactly. I agree with that. But back to this idea that you can't use them during big game season. I'm going to tell them all. I say there's another way to solve this problem. We can just outlaw big game hunting. Accomplish the same thing, right? I always say, and the reason I say that,
Somebody will think that's a great idea.
well, but I always say that because I hear it with chucker dogs occasionally. We got to outlaw trapping because chucker dogs will get caught. And I always say, there's another way to solve this. We can outlaw chucker dogs. Why in the hell does it always have to come down to us to take it in the shorts?
People don't want to hear that, do they?
There's another side to the equation here. And I'm going to tell them, I say, that sounds ridiculous to say that we should shut down big game hunting, right?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds just as absurd to me to shut down thermal. Why should the coyote hunters have to take it in the shorts for the big game hunters?
Yep.
That's just wrong. So
I look at it kind of the way. I mean, you pulled the trigger on a big game animal after dark. You broke the law. I don't give a shit if you did that with a tiki torch and a spear.
Yep.
Or you did it with the 308 and a thermal. You broke you took an animal after dark. That's illegal.
Yeah.
I don't that by myself. The charge of taking an animal outside of legal hunting hours is enough by itself. Who cares? Ran it over with an F-150 for all I give a shit. It was after hours. So the means and the method never really made a lot of sense to me, except for the ability of the justice system to just stack a lot more stuff on top.
Well,
and make somebody tweet out.
It's very similar to the argument that we used to have about checking our traps with binoculars. It's pretty common for a guy to, tie their trap to a piece of PVC and lean it up against a rim rock or a branch or a flag or something so that you can look up there and see if the trap's been moved. Knocks down the PVC.
It's not legal?
It is legal.
Okay, that's good.
Where I'm going with this is we had a big argument about it years ago. All the wardens were saying, well, that doesn't constitute checking your traps. And I said, well, what does constitute checking your traps? Is it, is 100 yards okay? Is 10 yards okay? Is 10 feet okay? Do we have to go up and touch the trap every time just to say we checked our trap? The point is, there's a law that says you have to check your traps every 96 hours and remove any animals that are caught. And so my argument with the wardens was, because one of them said, well, what if your system doesn't work? I said, well, then I didn't remove the animal, right? Write me a ticket. If the system doesn't work, then you got me. We don't need another law.
I got a shitty system.
Hmm?
I could. It's interesting you brought that up because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the use of drones when it comes to checking a trap. I personally don't, and especially as I get older, don't see a problem with using a drone to check a freaking trap.
I don't either. And I'll tell you some thoughts, and maybe, I don't know, this is a public podcast, but legislators have all told me that they want us checking traps with drones.
Really?
When we argue about the trap check intervals, I've had several of them say, when that technology is available, we want you using it. And really, if you think about it, and I tell people, I say I got a line of traps over here across the valley. I mean, I can run over there in 20 or 30 minutes. I could fly the drone up that canyon, see if I had anything in a 30-minute flight. And if I did, I could run up there and take it out of the trap. But because I can't use a drone, I'm not going to go there for another couple of days because it's going to take me 3 hours to run up there and check those traps. And I don't have.
You're going to wait 96 hours for sure.
Well, maybe, it depends on a lot of things. But chances are I'm not going to check those traps as often as I would if I could use a drone.
No, that's great. I agree. Neil, do you have a discerning opinion on this one, or have you heard a good opinion against it?
No, I'm with you guys. I don't have really anything to add.
Well,
I've never quite understood it.
You get some pushback from the guys that say, well, what about the guys that are poorer and we can't afford drones? And, well, one bobcat will buy you a drone.
Too many poor folks out trapping right now, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
But now I could say the same thing about coyote hunters. What? It sure is nice that you have that 6.5 Creedmoor on an AR-15 platform with a electronic scope that does your dope for you, and I'm here stuck with my 22-250 with the old open sights or peep sights.
Ducky windage.
Just sucks to be me.
Yeah, I mean, it's technology's something we have to deal with, but I mean, I think drones are better for us, better for the animals, better for everything.
Here's one reason I really like the idea of a drone, and especially in the landscape that we have here, because after I've checked my trap twice, maybe 3 times, you know where my trap is because you can see my freaking footsteps walking right up to it.
Yeah, looks like a herd of elephants went up there.
Yeah, it's like it's a freaking trail right to my trap. So if I use a drone, I'm not disturbing the landscape. I'm not doing anything like that. I'll just check. I personally love the idea of using drones.
Well, I see it for big game hunting. I mean, it's not right to fly over the hill and say, oh, well, there's a big 7-point bull over there and go over and kill him. But we've either got an animal in a trap or we don't.
True.
It's not like we're flying over the hill to see if there's a bobcat there that we can go over and shoot. He's either in my trap or he's not. If he's in my trap, I'll go get him, If he's not, I won't.
Yeah, and on the big game one, I would have. It's an interesting perspective. I hadn't considered I just want to see if there's anything on the other side. I thought about it from the perspective of, hey, I thought about it that it was not allowed from the perspective of I'm going to use my drone to drive the animals the direction I want them to kind of move towards. That's what I thought it was. Or maybe it's a mixture of both.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sure it's all of the above.
Yeah. Yeah, drones aren't good for big game hunting, but for traps, I mean, the animal's there or he's not. I mean, you've already caught him or you haven't,
100% agree. All right, so that is the hound petition. That is the use of thermals. And I said one other, Joel, but I apologize.
Horses.
I don't recall the third topic you mentioned.
Oh,
Horses.
Horses, yeah.
Always got to talk about a feral horse.
Yeah. Well, Jenny and I.
On that note, I'd like to, in June, when you guys get back from the Westerns, I'd like to do a special podcast focused strictly on the horses, on the horse situation. So
Okay.
I'll reach out to Jenny and see if she's interested in a couple-hour conversation. I'm sure she is, but
Oh, yeah.
go ahead, Joel.
She'd love it. Yeah, she just got a movie that came out about her. It's got her picture on the cover. It's called Hell Bent. And
I saw that picture. That's a good picture.
Did you see it?
I was like, I know that lady.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in a Colorado Film Festival on the weekend that we were in Arizona. So, but we're going to go over to Cheyenne for the next one, the next film festival when they show it over there. So, and I'm in it too.
So,
I mean, Jenny's not the only movie star. Ira Hansen's in it. So, anyway.
So let me ask a fundamental question, and just so for anybody who hasn't really thought about this, why should a coyote? Why should somebody who's trapping or hunting predators care about the horse conversation?
Well, for one thing, they prop the mountain lion population up, which is harder than hell on the bobcats and the deer and everything else.
True.
There's enough horses to keep the lions at an unnatural high. But there's not enough lions to knock the horse populations down. So you've got an abundance of this mega predator out there that affects everything. So the trappers should care about it, because when you got a lion in the country, he's killing your bobcats or running them off, or, you know, bobcats don't thrive around mountain lions.
It's too bad we can't genetically modify a new strain of mountain lions who only like to taste of horse meat.
Well,
this also problems.
There are some like that, but there's not enough of them to keep the horses down. I mean, we got 70,000 too many horses on the range right now, and we don't
70,000 for a range that's slated to hold about 17,000, if I remember correctly.
Right, and we don't have 70,000 lions on the landscape.
No. The best numbers I've heard, and there's not real good numbers, but the best numbers I've heard is somewhere between 2,000 or 3,000 mountain lions.
Yeah, I don't.
But that's pure guess, I think.
Guess, yeah. Hell, we got 2,000 or 3,000 in the valley I live in. That's the thing, you know. Maybe Eastern Nevada's the way it is, but it's like Mitch Bailey says. He says, I've never seen another man with a dog box in Washoe County. And one of those California guys that came over, he says, I've never seen another dog hunter in Western Nevada. We don't get the snow over here. You know, those guys want to have snow to hunt lions, you know. They want to be able to tell whether there's a big tom out there. They don't want to kill females and younger ones, and they say that they can only kill one lion, because if they kill two, then they're done hunting for the year. So they run around and tree them and let them go. And
they only get two per year. Well, yeah, no, yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah, so
my mind's catching up.
But they're wigged out about the non-residents, and we can't really say anything about that because of our non-resident laws. So, you know.
Anything more on the feral horse conversation you wanted to talk? You wanted to touch on?
Oh, I could talk for a long time about it. I'll just say that we're making some progress. We've talked to higher ups in the Department of Interior. We've talked to 2 congressmen in Washington, D.C. We've talked to BLM, several lobbyists. We've been talking to a lot of people, And in this administration, I think there's a chance we might make some headway.
Anything's a gamble. Anything's a possibility with this administration, and I mean that in a good way and a bad way. It's just hard to tell sometimes.
The first thing that has to happen is there's a rider that says we can't kill horses. That has to be stripped out of the appropriations bill. If that doesn't happen,
was that just the act of killing horses, or the act of killing horses to then export the meat?
Well, there's both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah, the Department of Agriculture can't inspect horse meat, and so therefore it can't be sold, and so on and so forth. But we got to get that rider pulled, and once that gets pulled, then we just go back to the law, which says that we can euthanize any horse that's over 10 years old or unadoptable. So the problem we got right now is there's 70,000 horses standing around in holding facilities, and it's costing us $276,000 a day to feed them. And there's no more holding facilities that want horses. So we can't gather another horse until we clear some of them out of the holding facilities. So
that 70,000 number you quoted me, that's just in holding. That doesn't count what's actually on the range.
Well, they're some very similar numbers, but one of them's the overpopulation on the range, and the other one is the ones that are in holding. So it's 70,000, but it's two different things. And so we got all these horses standing around for 30 years feeding them. It's ridiculous. I mean, this is a Doge project,
Oh, that's a Doge project way to happen.
Yeah. But the law, if we can get that rider stripped out, the law says that they can be, the term is sale without restriction, which means you can sell them and then go do whatever you want with them after you sell them. And the idea is to offer, these wild horse advocates have often said that they could adopt all the horses out and everything, so we don't need to euthanize any of them. So take what you want, and we'll deal with the rest of them.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting you say that, because if they were to open it up for adopt, they have these, and I don't know if they still do them, but they have these opportunities to adopt a wild horse. And number one, they make it, I think, unnecessarily difficult, so they deter people from wanting to in the first place. I mean, there are some diehards that do, but it was fascinating to me when that program was going full force. People weren't really adopting. They were passionate about the conversation. They had lots of opinions about horses and what we should do. But if you said, "Hey, you want to take one home?" No, I don't want to take a horse home.
There's a market for adoptions, but it's not for 70,000 of them.
No,
it's more like about 5,000. You could probably absorb about 5,000 a year, but we got 70,000. There's markets.
That's just insane from an ecological perspective.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. And the way I'm selling it to these people when I talk to them is, I say I don't want to talk about killing horses. That's not popular. If I'm talking to somebody from New Jersey or Ohio or Florida or someplace, I'm trying to sell them on the fact that the public lands belong to them just as much as they do to me. And our public lands are being trashed. If you owned a fourplex, would you let, the tenants allow the place to be overrun with rats and all the water to be destroyed and the roof to fall off and everything? The BLM is the property manager. We're not allowing our property manager to manage our property. So it's turning into a tenement, and it's being trashed. Do you value the Rocky Mountains? Do you value the Great Basin? Do you value the Sierra Nevada? Do you value the northern desert on the Mogollon Rim in Arizona? Do you like deer? Do you like wildflowers? Do you like Indian rice grass? Do you like clear water? Are all these things something that you see as valuable? Because all your clear water and your pretty flowers, pretty spring flowers, are becoming non-existent because we have too many horses. So I'm trying to get people back east to claim their ownership of the public lands and vote our way, because a politician does not see this as being their problem if they're back east. It's like, it sucks to be you, Nevada. Well, guess what? You own Nevada just as much as I do. You know.
True. Yeah.
You know, do you want to just sell Nevada to us and then we'll deal with it? You know, well, hell no, it's our public lands. Well, then it's public lands. Let's vote accordingly and take care of it.
Yeah. Good. Neil, any thoughts on that?
I agree. I don't understand why it's so hard to have a real conversation about the ecosystems with folks. I wish it was easier. I wish people actually cared about everything, not just a few horses, or you're rounding up the horses. They're supposed to stay wild, and I mean every other animal's managed on the landscape. It should be common sense. It's common sense to all of us, but folks that live back east and pump millions of dollars into these wild horse advocacy groups don't know. All they get is the doctored information that's sent to them in the emails with the donate button. So it's a tough battle. I think Joel and Jenny have a really good game plan and a really good shot at actually getting something done. And
the problem's deep, and I mentioned it the last time. It's socialistic ownership of land. There are too many landlords. We've got 50 states. I mean, can you imagine owning a building with 50 of your cousins and relatives and everything?
Well, that doesn't even. You got 50 states, but then you got 50 unique state departments of agriculture, forestry, wildlife, and then that doesn't even begin to touch the federal organizations that have ownership or responsibilities.
Well, and you got 110 senators and 400 and something congressmen, and that's the problem, is you have too many owners. Socialism doesn't work, and I hate to say that about public lands, because I love the freedom of public lands, but I mean, you got to be honest about it. It's too many people that own this property. Can't get anything done.
We talked about this before. Utah had a petition to transfer ownership of their public lands from the federal government to the state government, because they had a constitutional, and I felt a strong constitutional argument that did not allow for the federal government to hold vast amounts of property in perpetuity. And that was a hard one for me, and I still don't know where I'd land, quite honestly, because from a constitutional perspective, I think they're absolutely 100% correct. However, I also know exactly what Nevada, Utah, and Arizona will do with all that public land if they get their grubby little hands on it. They'll sell it off in a heartbeat, and there won't be 87% of public land in Nevada. There will be 12 within a decade or within 100 years. So if there was a way to purchase or transfer ownership of the land with the caveat that 90% of it must stay public for 100 years, if not, or some indeterminate amount of life in perpetuity, then I think I could support it. But
that's very easy, and I've said that before. You just create a deed restriction. I'm in real estate. I mean, they do land trusts up in Idaho and Montana all the time that people get to keep their ranch, but they say that it can't be developed into condominiums. And they pay them a couple of $1 million to sign a deed restriction saying that they can't ever sell it and subdivide it. Well, you could put a deed restriction on public lands in Nevada that said that, it can be private, but you can't close off the access, and you have to allow hunting and fishing rights and stuff like that. I mean, mineral rights are accepted on ownership deeds all the time. I mean, there's ways to do it. And I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that that's the problem. and we might as well identify the problem and not dance around it if we're going to find the solution to it. But
100%
Nevada's tried to do that for years. It was called the Sagebrush Rebellion, and I mean, it was a big deal back in the 70s and 80s, and it didn't get any more traction than Utah did. But this isn't a new concept, you know. But it is a problem. So that's my sale to somebody from back east. This is your land, you know. Are you going to let us take care of it? You know, you own it just as much as me, and it's being trashed. You know, it's a tenement. It's halfway burned out, and it's infested with animals that, you know, are destroying it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, gents, I think we should probably wrap up there. We're right at about an hour and a half. Neil, I'll let you have closing comments. Anything you want to say, sir? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah. I just wanted to get the word out on a couple of things we got coming up. We talked about the Western, June 6th and 7th, Spring Creek, Nevada. Can't wait to see you guys there. We've got a amazing demo lineup. And then also don't forget the Youth Expo. Last year we hosted our first one at Illapah Reservoir, just west of Ely, about a half hour west of Ely, and it went great. We had a lot of kids. Everyone had a great time. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I think this year's going to be a lot bigger and better. We got a couple other groups, a couple other new sponsors, and a lot of good ideas to spin off of last year and add some stuff to it. So make it a priority to get your kids out there. We'll have free stuff for them. We'll teach them hunting, fishing, trapping, outdoor ethics, all different kinds, duck hunting. There's all kinds of fun activities for them, and I think it'll be another great event this year with a lot of great help. So
Where can people find information on it?
We're going to be posting. Follow our Facebook page. That's where we're going to post everything. The Youth Expo this year will be at Illapah Reservoir again, and it will be the weekend of July 11th.
Okay.
So,
awesome.
But hopefully I see you folks at the Western and the Youth Expo. It's going to be great, both of them.
Unfortunately, I'm missing the freaking Westerns this year. I'm really kind of this year's weird. So I originally had the trip to Hill Air Force Base scheduled next week, but then my daughter's graduating college, and then she graduates high school in June. She graduates with her associate's degree, so I couldn't miss that. And then the next logical weekend was the first week in June, and then I texted you. I'm like, hey, when's Westerns? And you're like, June 6th, 7th. So, oh well. All right, gents. Well, I do appreciate your time. I sincerely do. Joel, I'll be tracking you down. And I want to talk to you, and I want to talk to your better looking half about a conversation sometime in June regarding horses. I really want to get into it because I think it is a wildly misunderstood topic, even by the people who live here. Quite honestly, probably there's 90% of the things I think I know are probably bullshit, and I would like to learn more about what's truly right. So we'll definitely want to catch up for that. But I appreciate your time, gents. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop for everybody else.
Appreciate your time too, Daryl. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
Absolutely. For anybody listening, by the time you hear this, hopefully we'll have a better idea what Oregon's got going on with their beaver. And the next one, tentatively scheduled, we're going to push for probably August. That'll get us past. That'll get us past the Westerns. That'll get us past the youth event, and then not too deep into hunting time. So early August, probably. Anyways, all right, folks. Thank you for your time. I'm going to hit stop.
Okay, see ya.